music on when we're ready, and I've got some nice bird alerts from quite a few places. So we'll just wait and see. I saw someone was actually waiting to come into the stream when I looked at my YouTube. That was nice.
So excited, are they? Your audio has just gone really bad.
That's because I turned around. Okay. Hello, YouTube. The YouTubers are coming in. We're just waiting for all the notifications to go out and for people to come in before we run the countdown.
And I'm just sitting here clearing my throat continually. I don't know what happened.
You can do that. And for those who are here early, you can how the secret sauce, how it's made. Ricki and I today have just exchanged a couple of emails with a few little things we'd like to talk about. I've prepared some nice rare bird alerts to look at some of the places we haven't spoken about around the world. Stormy's in. How are you, Stormy? Stormy, was that you waiting about when I checked about 20 minutes ago? Had you put the notify me on and you were waiting to come in? I always like that. I like it when I can see that people are waiting and I think, good, we're going to be rocking today.
It's like turning up at a gig and noticing that there are people in the audience waiting for you when you stick your head out from behind the curtain.
Ricki, here we go.
Oh, hi Eva, how you going?
Hi Eva, and welcome to the Riot Squad. I'm not sure, Eva, whether you know why we refer to the commenters as the Riot Squad. I'll wait until we're actually going and got a few more in, and I will let you know. Or maybe Stormy will type it in. He'll probably remember, and if he does, I can put that up on the comments. Okay, what do you reckon? Let's get this show on the road, shall we?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Okay, so I'm going to do it a little bit differently than normal. Where's the music? First, I'm going to kick into rock.
We're rocking, are we?
It just goes on and on. The rock show.
We are rocking.
I seem to remember there's a pause where I can actually cut the next video in, but yes, there is. Here it comes. And I'm only doing the countdown video, so it's easy for me to edit, by the way, folks.
Wow, I can touch up my appearance. Last time I tried that, I
What happened? I don't believe it, Ricki. I don't believe it.
Hi.
Where is it? Oh, I know why. I'm playing around with too many things. Hello, bird nerds. I'm Grant. I'm a bird nerd. Hang on. That there, right there, that's Ricki Coughlan. Ricki's also a bird nerd, but Ricki can genuinely call herself an ornithologist, correct?
Pretty much, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. So this is the Birdwatching Deep Dive where Ricki and I, we just talk about stuff that we want to talk about concerning anything to do with birdwatching. And we really try and talk about our local patches, how birdwatching makes us feel. And Ricki always shares some really great techniques and some tips and tricks, and Ricki's got a bee in her bonnet today, so we'll get into that in a moment. But it's Bird Week, National Bird Week, Ricki. Now, tell me, is Bird Week something that you look forward to each year, or is it just something that bobs up and you sort of go, yeah, yay, okay?
It's every week is Bird Week in my home, I like to think. Oops, bumping the camera. Oh, yeah, I'm bumping the camera again. Yeah, so every week is Bird Week in my home, I like to think. And, I do like to make a little bit of extra effort on this kind of Bird Week. So I've begun by my celebration by buying a very nice tea towel. A fairy wren themed tea towel from the amazing Paula Peters, who's this fantastic journalist.
Paula is amazing, isn't she?
Yeah, she's lovely. Yeah. Yes, does beautiful work.
Ricki, I'm glad you brought Paula up. What people often say to me, how come you are always doing so many streams and interviews and why don't you just do one a week, and why don't you make it really nice and spend lots of time editing it and all that? And the answer is really simple. For one, nobody really gives a shit how well your things are edited if the content is interesting. And sometimes I go off on the deep end and down rabbit holes and whatnot, but that's okay. But it's in that business and marketing kind of space, and when people are doing PR, that's when people worry about spending 10 hours editing a 5-minute clip and all that. I'd rather talk to more people about what they do and how they feel about birds, or what they think about the state of biodiversity or climate change or something like that, rather than sitting here making me look pretty or making sure the introduction is really good or anything, because nobody really cares. Actually, Riot Squad, hello to everyone live too, by the way. We call the audience the Riot Squad because, Ricki, do you remember?
Oh, I think it might have to do with something with, around a group of birds.
Yes, which one would it be? The collective noun for...
I'm thinking it's a kookaburra.
Spot on.
Yeah, no,
Spot on.
Yes, because I would say that a kookaburra, a grouping of kookaburras is a right squat.
That's right. So that's what we christen the people who comment, like H2 Rider here, or as we know in another social media handle, Stormy, and people just fill us in with what's going on. So in the park in the western part of the Hawkesbury, collecting clover, little corella, long-billed corella, galah, and we're waiting for the and.
Can it scroll?
Oh yeah, no, it's there. Hello, Martin. Welcome aboard. Yeah, it's Toon Gabby. I know. I just stumbled. I was going to say Parramatta again. I'm hopeless. Sulphur Crested Cockatoo was the other one. Now let me get back from being distracted, Ricki. That about Bird Week. It would have been good if the Friday of National Bird Week, after we've been doing our Aussie bird counts, and I see a bunch of people, birdie people, some from BirdLife, were meeting with politicians today. They've flown to Canberra. God knows what good that will do, but you've got to be in there battling and batting. So good on them for that. But there's a great community of people around the country who are just going out and doing their 20-minute count each day for Aussie Bird Week. But wouldn't it have been great if it could have finished off with maybe Friday or Sunday being the day they name the bird of the year from the Guardian the poll, and that would have really sort of built to something. And I guess I understand people. It might crowd it. They might think it crowds it too much, but it means that when Sean and Holly and Tegan and everyone else from BirdLife, Mick, and everyone who is doing all the public media this week, they could also be talking about the coming up. We're going to announce at the end of the week the bird of the year, and then the swift parrot. And but anyway, I'm not criticizing.
Also, the data too. Like release the data from the have a whole thing. I know it's very hard to cram that all in and crunch it all down, but it would be great if we could do something like that and have this whole crescendo of the birding week where we get all the data and announce what's the most commonly seen and all of that kind of thing, and the most rarely seen, and the winners and the losers of the year and all of that kind of thing. But also the bird which has been selected through the Guardian thing as the bird of the year.
Yeah, it's incredibly difficult, and I'm not criticizing, so don't anybody think I am, because I'm actually in awe of the amount of media that that the BirdLife gang have been able to secure. I mean, seeing Sean Dooley doing Sky News, that was pretty cool.
What was he there with Andrew?
I didn't see. I just saw that.
I can just imagine him and Andrew talking about chestnut rump teeth wrens all the like.
I won't watch anything on Sky News, and I generally won't watch clips or anything, even just because it counts as a click in their metrics and everything.
Right. So you're not interested in Peter Credlin's favourite bird?
No, not interested in anything Peter Credlin has to say. I mean, and I know that cuts off some sources of information and whatnot, but I don't. I won't
Really
in my news feed. I won't click on anything from the Australian, from the Herald Sun, from any Murdoch thing. I don't have Foxtel. I don't have KO. I just won't.
Yes, I don't really believe in feeding the beast in any way.
Yeah. It's I mean, look, and I know it's a compromise anyway. I mean, there's I buy things off Amazon, and I've got stuff from, you know, Elon and whatnot. But in terms of who's the most destructive person around, it's it's Rupert and Lachlan by a long way in this country, and I think I think they're part of the reason why nothing's getting done. That just nothing is getting done, and it's terribly disappointing.
Well,
anyway, I didn't want to get all political today. I just didn't want to. I've been. We've all been venting, haven't we, Ricki, for a few days, I think, and there's more than enough awful things to be talking about in the world. So let's talk about the joy of bird watching, and the topic I wanted to select, Ricki, was coming on the back of a comment that Sean made, or because I crashed into his Twitter feed this morning when I got a first for my local park. So for my house list, a first tick, and it was a really exciting one. And I'm actually going to pull up a visual for this one too. But the photo shows a much better view than what I got, because these birds are tiny, and I was doing my bird count, and here we are. Here it comes, folks. I was going to say, pick it out. Tell me what it is, but I didn't mask the name. Now that's. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not looking at the camera. I'm looking at the screen. That's of course the purple crowned lorikeet. I was counting away, doing my common starling, common myna, house sparrow, spotted dove, noisy myna, red wattlebird, Australian magpie. All the usuals, New Holland honeyeater.
The urban suspects, it's more or less the roll call of urban birds.
Sulphur crested cockatoo, long-billed corella, rainbow lorikeets. And then I heard some white-plumed honeyeaters right up the top of the canopy of one of the trees on the edge of the park. And I could hear that. And then I heard this other sort of, it's a cross between a buzz and a chip, the call, and I could hear it, and it was coming from a few spots. And then I hunted around in the canopy, and it was a lot smaller, the view of the bird that I got, rather than this photo. By the way, thanks Mike's Birds on Flickr. I love it when people will allow us to use their stuff on Flickr. Five purple crowned lorikeets, which is a first for me, and not a first for me as a lifer, but in the house list in my area. And they were in company with one little lorikeet and no musk lorikeets. So that was pretty unusual for here. Hopefully they'll be around when I'm going down to the car park at the supermarket. Has got a whole pile of flowering eucalypts now fringing a park. So I'm hoping they'll be down there when I cruise in a bit later on this afternoon. So I was so excited. I posted it, and Sean responded and just said, well, that's the thing with bird watching. You never know what you're going to get. And it's the essence of bird watching. And I thought about it a bit too from last week, when Deb, friend of the show, and certainly friend of the friend of First Seen and Heard, she's always posting each morning. And in South Gippsland, in her garden at her bird feeder, a bar-shouldered dove turned up. And there was a bit of a conversation about whether it was a vagrant or whether it was a aviary escapee. And I made the comment that I thought it could be either these days. And Sean also popped in with, yeah, could be either. So sometimes in any location, and I'm on the northwest fringes of Melbourne or Naarm here in Wurundjeri country, just in the suburbs, near the airport, near a freeway, next to two busy arterial roads, just squashed in, and seeing great birds. Seeing great birds. So,
Yeah.
so Ricki, do you still get a buzz? Like, do you still get a buzz? Like, you saw one bird this week that was a first for the national park that you're in.
Yeah, I have never had in decades of birding in the Royal National Park, I have never had a white-headed pigeon. And I was out with my birdwatching course crew on Sunday on the Garrawarra Trail on the south end of the Royal. And there were two instances when white-headed pigeons flew across the trail. And it was quite a moment. And it was, the first one was a little distant, and I just happened to get it as I turned around and looked behind us all. And the next time I saw one, I guess it was about 50, maybe 80 metres up the track, it just flew straight across as well. So they're only brief looks, but yeah, both white-headed pigeons, and probably they were going in the same direction, so probably different birds. That was pretty cool. And earlier in the week, I got a yellow-tufted honeyeater on Lady Carrington Drive, which I've been going there since the 70s, and that's the first time I've had a yellow-tufted honeyeater on Lady Carrington Drive.
And they are
re-wrapped.
They are fabulous, aren't they? They really are great birds. I hadn't realised that Flickr, where I'm pulling these photos from, has changed a little bit since I last went looking for some images, and not all of them are now downloadable and able to be shared if they're in the sort of public area. So I was going to show you how difficult it can be to actually see some lorikeets and some yellow-tufted honeyeaters when they're up in the foliage. Even though they're extremely brightly coloured birds, they're beautifully camouflaged.
Oh, yeah. Well, this fellow was he jumped straight onto a branch 2 meters from me, right at eye level. And I got about a 2-second look, I'd say, just pulled the binoculars straight up. There he was. Quick, good look, and off he went. So he didn't stick around. He must have realised, whoops, too close to this thing, and took off. But yeah, it was a good moment. But I like a bird, even if I've seen them quite recently. If I see like a bird I really like that's a little hard to get, and it might be a new one for a trail, because I did also get a red-browed tree creeper on the walk on Sunday as well with our crew, which that really got me going. So that's a bird I'm always on the lookout for in Royal National Park. Not an easy get.
Now, was Eva with you on that?
Eva certainly was on that walk. On that, she's currently doing the course. So Eva,
that's
somewhere in viewing today or in the chat.
Let me pop that up again, just so you, this is what I love. This is what I love about birding, is the community that it sort of builds around. Around a number of issues. There's, and we'll keep talking about the sort of joy of birding, but conservation. Some people are really interested in conservation. Some people are really interested in gardening. Some people want to get involved in, climate and biodiversity action, and birds tie into all of that, the interest in birds. And then so many people are drawn to birds through gardening or through a pursuit like photography. So I don't care how anyone gets into it. I just reckon it's bloody great that people are getting into it. Ricki, that's Eva's comment about the walk. So yeah.
Yeah, it was a good day. We had a really good day of birding. It was fabulous. I've actually, Eva's presence reminds me that I'm yet to send out our tour report, but that should go out this evening. You'll be glad to know, Eva. And I might even pull up a few stats for you.
Well, Ricki, I'm so pleased that you're not the only one who hasn't got things done that they said they'd get done.
Oh, I am just so busy.
I am too. Now, I'm just before you get to that, I'm going to pull up one other bird that you commented on in the email you sent me earlier. Now, tell me why these critters are bobbing up in Sydney, do you think, at the moment?
Well, they're not unknown in Sydney, and you do get some turning up. This appears to be those wings are a little more typical of a younger, perhaps an immature bird. You can see they're not blue right across those coverts.
That's right. There's and I wanted to. I'm going to show a couple because I wanted to show you how different they can look in different light as well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So.
And just different birds too. And you can see like the way those feathers are blowing up. You might think, oh, there's a younger bird because it's grey on the back, but it's just the positioning of the feathers. So yeah. And
see how this one's got the rufous all the way down over the tail coverts at the top. Depending on where you are, I mean that's not. They're not usually that red, the birds you see in Victoria. Like it's not that extensive. The patch is usually lighter at the back end of the bird. So
sometimes people pump their colours up a little bit too. I'm not accusing David of doing that, but you'll often see people that somewhere in their processing they've wound up either purposefully or accidentally with the colours pumped right up, and it's not always the best outcome, but yeah.
No, and that's why it's a good practice if you're trying to identify a bird from photographs that you have a look at a range of people's different photographers' photographs because something like a tawny patch or buff can become russet or browns can become creamy depending on the processing and the resolution of your screen as well. So yeah,
and of course the light the photo's taken in, which is why photographic field guides are a little bit problematic in that area. They don't quite nail it in that respect.
And often the bird is hiding just by the way it might be sitting or the way it's arranged its feathers, that an identifying feature might not be really prominent in some photos. So you do need to just look around. Now, I've just brought up some more of Stormy's recent list. I don't know. Tell us. Stormy H2 Rider, whether these are from today's count or whether they're just in the last few days when you were counting. So rainbow lorikeet, magpie lark, Australian magpie, common miner, noisy miner, galah, Australian raven, willy wagtail, Pacific black duck, dusky moorhen, purple swamp hen, grey butcherbird, and let's get into the next one. Australian white ibis, crested pigeon, rock dove, bell miner, olive-backed oriole, spotted turtle dove. There we go. That's the count from Monday. Okay. Well, there's some good ones there. Like well spotted. The bell miner and the olive-backed oriole. They can be very difficult to see if they're high up in the canopy, but they also do like to come down and make themselves known. What else have you got there that I reckon's a corker? On your first lot, your first message, I had rainbow lorikeet today. I had Australian magpie today, common magpie today, noisy miner today. I had a little raven, not a Australian raven, and that was all out of that list. And I was hanging out to get a crested pigeon, but they didn't turn up. So, okay, I will take that out now, Ricki.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us. Let's talk about your beef with eBird, and let's talk about the couple of. Oh no, you haven't got a beef with eBird. Let's not overblow it. There's just sometimes. Tell us about the two birds.
I'm a good vegan.
Yeah. Tell us about the two particular birds that were noted in some rare bird sightings that you were a bit skeptical about, shall we say?
Well, yeah, I think I wasn't the only one who was skeptical, but it's a little bit of a. I think it's possibly part of a larger discussion around some of the way that things happen on eBird, but well, I don't think we need to go into that today. But it was this week. You had somebody report seeing a blue-winged parrot in the Penrith region. So Penrith is in the far outer west of Sydney, starting to get just before you get into the foothills of the Blue Mountains. And yeah, they reported seeing a blue-winged parrot. Now, the blue-winged parrot would be a very unlikely find there, I should think. But the photo provided was of a turquoise parrot. And I just wonder why nobody called up that person.
Now you can see. I've bought the map. I've bought the bird data map up.
Yeah, but why wasn't that flagged? Whereas if I go for a walk on Lady Carrington Drive and say I see, 30 brown Georginis, which is a pretty easy thing to do if you're on the job, that gets flagged and hassled, and you get all kinds of stuff. Or we've had someone recently say they saw 2 pink robins on a trail.
Pink robins or rose robins?
Pink robins they claimed to see, and they said, I'm very familiar with them because I come from Tasmania. That might be well and good, but the likelihood of seeing a pink robin or a cassowary in Heathcote on a trail is probably pretty much the same.
Are you kidding? I was going to say, did somebody actually say they saw a cassowary?
No, but saying you saw a pink robin is probably as accurate as saying you saw a cassowary. You are far more likely during that particular month to have seen rose robins there, because they're not uncommon around Sydney that time of year, and they're they're somewhat similar.
Yeah,
and they're both little petroicid robins, and of course there are significant differences. But to report that and have that come out as a rare bird alert, and I harken back to getting getting questioned a couple of times about the numbers of brown Georginis I've reported on Lady Carrington Drive in wet sclerophyll and rainforest habitats in the heart of their range.
Well, I was anticipating pushback about the purple-crowned lorikeet today, so I only had the phone with me, so I couldn't take a photo, but I did record them, their calls, and I stood under the tree and then followed them across when they went to another tree. Yeah. And I'll probably have to, I haven't listened to it, but I'll probably have to boost it up because they were a long way away, but I'm sure. But that begs the question.
You wouldn't be shocked to see purple crown lorikeets.
Oh, no.
You don't have to
not
go
at
that
all.
far north to see them commonly.
Oh, no. And they're very common further west of here, and they have been popping up. Well, when I say very common, they are regular visitors to flowering gums further west.
They're blossom migrants. And they have wings. And this is the whole thing about, a bird could turn up anywhere. Well, they can. And anyone who's lived in Broome or spent time in Broome will tell you that's a fantastic place for all kinds of vagrants to drop in. And you understand that birds have wings and this happens.
Yeah.
I've had little lorikeets in the Sutherland Shire, and that's a very rare thing. But in fact, I've only had them once. And that call was questioned. Oh, they must have been musk lorikeets, or pretty sure I know the difference. These were little, and you do get them in Western Sydney.
Yeah. Well, I was looking hard because I saw the one little, and I'll put up Stormy's comment too. Monday was really blustery down here as well, and I had a terrible. It was only the typical urban birds, the junk birds, and no bird's a junk bird. Let's get that clear. But the introduced birds, what do we call them now? Do we call them naturalized? What's the right term for these birds that have established really successfully?
They're introduced or feral. I was thinking about that yesterday. I was looking at common miners at the zoo where I work, and wandering around the grounds there, and I was thinking, they're so much a part of the furniture. At what point do you just call them Australian birds? Well, even though we do need to know they're native birds, because we need to understand a lot more about birds, if you get what I mean, like the context about birds, evolution, systematics, biogeography of birds. We don't want to ever lose that and lose our understanding of that.
No, that's right. Like the origin of where they're from and how they fit into the landscape. But it's like talking about how our altered landscapes and our fractured, disjointed landscapes now sort of mean that some of these birds, and I'm particularly thinking of the common blackbird in Melbourne and the spotted dove, they have adapted just so well to urban Australia, metropolitan Australia, that it's pretty much home. I don't think there's anything we could do, and sparrows, of course, but they've done it all around the world.
But the house sparrow, particularly,
as one actually flies just up it's right outside my window, and it's actually hawking for insects off the frame, like wattlebirds do when you're looking out the window. Anyway, sorry, Ricki.
I was just going to say that house sparrows, because they're tending to lose them into that's Martin Ross. I thought that was Stormy for a moment.
No.
I saw bar-breasted honeyhead. I was about to say, what? In Western Sydney. See you later. I'm in the car.
And Martin's a Gladstone, and Martin, I'll open that up later. When I open the email, it causes real drag on the stream. So, but that's a beauty. I'm just thinking. I think it was around Mackay where I got the bar-breasted honeyeater on the trip. I can't actually remember, but I think that was roughly where it was.
Yeah. I used to get them in the Kimberley, up around the Gibb River Road, Geeky Gorge, even around there you get them.
Yeah, I'm thinking. They were more common as we went further north, but I think that was where I got the lifer. I think it was around. I think it was anyway. It doesn't matter. I pulled this map up, Ricki, because it's the blue wing parrot distribution from Bird Data, and I'll try and click up one more. It's a bit slow to respond, but I'll click it up one more and show you. So on these, when it's common on the south, sort of southwest of Victoria, it's very slow to respond while we've got lots of things open. Here we go. It's common near Geelong. There's the blue spot. So that's 428 sightings in the last 14 days. And it's
all right.
And 49 down here in sort of south central Gippsland, and then there's 54 down near Wilson's Prom, and you can see over here near Mount Gambier 108. But this, where's the? It's probably that dot there, where there have been 20 sightings over time. Now, one of those is me.
Can you line up the sightings around Sydney and Wollongong there, and let's see what numbers.
Let's have a look. Okay, 2 sightings in north of Wollongong.
Yeah.
There, and not in the last 14 days, and 1 sighting in the Sydney area. There's no, and that's not in the last 14 days.
Yeah, I find that highly unlikely, unless it's an escapade.
Yeah. So, but as you can see, you're likely to see it in this this southern portion of Victoria, much more likely than you are anywhere else. Although there are a lot, there are 137 sightings south of Swan Hill. So I'm thinking that if people are out looking in these areas, they might see, more of them might get recorded as people skill up. But I only saw the one I saw here, and it was outside the park, but very close, just sitting in a gnarly old acacia pycnantha on the nature strip, and just sitting there. And I actually walked past, and I had my headphones on. I was listening to a podcast, going down to the shops, and I walked past, and I just happened. I didn't hear it because I had something on my head, but I just happened to see the silhouette of the tail, and I thought, and the way they sit, like when they're sitting at rest, is slightly different in posture to red rumps, which is what I would expect to see. And I thought, that's a little bit different. I had a look at it, and I was able to walk within, I don't know, 4 meters of 3. It was probably 3 meters above me before it took off. Blue wing parrot.
I've only had them a couple of times, so maybe 4 or 5 times have I ever had them. So I'm not that familiar with to be able to compare postures or anything, but yeah.
Well, I'm not that familiar with the blue wing, but I'm really familiar with. There's a group of red rumps that actually, that's one of the trees that they hang out in a group and do their contact call. They go to the top of the tree, the dead branches poking out of the top of the canopy, and that's where they sort of group before they fly in to the middle of the park when the poa annua is seeding, and that's when they go in and feed there. But that's kind of where they meet up when the different small groups from around here get together and they meet up in that tree. Or I've seen them do it many times. So maybe it's on the at the intersection of a couple of different territory nest territories for them. I don't know. Because we get, with red rumps, you'll often see 20 of them feeding where there's a lot of feed, like with the capeweed or with the poa annua. But when you go to areas where there's less abundant food, they're in smaller groups. So my supposition for here is that I think these little groups disperse into their preferred little home range, probably where their nest hollows is, and then they come into the park when it's bonanza time. But I don't see, they're not in the park now because there's no poa annua. They're in other parts of the neighbourhood. So anyway, so what was the other one you said? The the rose robin. Let's have a look at how many rose robins have been seen.
Pink robin.
The pink robin. Sorry, pink robin. Let's have a look. This is really riveting stuff. Watching me type on the screen. Pink robin. Here it comes. Okay, pink robin in Sydney. Let's have a
All
look.
of them will be rose robins. Every
Three
single one.
three sightings. One sighting north of Wollongong.
No,
Three sightings out on the
unlikely.
western side of the range, and where's that? That's probably Katoomba-ish, or I know that's probably I don't know. You'll be able to tell better than me. But yeah, I agree. The preponderance of evidence would be that no,
No, no.
no.
That is for a little tiny bird like that. To be that far out of a very distinctive range, a range where there are very distinct requirements where you find that bird, and to think that it would just travel all the way up to the Central Coast or to the end of the Bells Liner Road up there somewhere, or around the bottom of the Royal National Park. That record between Wollongong and Sydney may indeed be the one that was recorded on eBird, has also been put on bird data on the Heathcote Pipeline Trail.
Well, let's see if I can interrogate that data.
Can you zoom in a little more, and if it will tell us, or if you can interrogate the data?
Here we go. I'm just waiting for it to tell me.
Well, it looks like it might not be. Yeah, these sightings, this is like in the Royal National Park, actually, not Heathcote, that particular one. And no.
When you look at where it is regularly sighted, or where there are that's probably the wrong terminology. Probably where there just are more sightings.
Well, the general distribution of the bird and the likely habitats. I believe it's also an altitudinal migrant.
Well, that was what I was thinking. It's really where the ranges are a bit higher, or the forest is denser.
Yes, those are two of the requirements. Yeah.
Yeah. So, because you have a look at the places on the south coast of Victoria where they're found, they're in, it's in the only places I've seen it, and I have seen it along this south coast of Victoria, are in really dense, tangled scrub, riparian situations, or the bottom of gullies. It's really different places to where you will find the rose robin. So.
And look, it's it's kind of to be expected. I've gone to places where I've never been before, and I've seen a bird, and I thought, oh my God, look at that, it's this. And a little bit more work done, and I've realised, no, it wasn't that. I wasn't seeing something that was like wildly out of its range. It was another bird. It was probably the more common option. And you get this. So it's not an attack on anyone. It's just that, now and again you do get this.
And I mean, we've also got to be fair in a way that they're difficult birds to distinguish if you don't know them well, and especially if you're looking at females.
If you're not a regular, if they were reports of females, that'd be like, wow.
But if you're not familiar with the rose robin and the pink robin, and you just spy one, you just go, oh wow, and it's a quick look. They are difficult for an inexperienced birder, or even an experienced birder who might be a seabird expert. You might be the best birder, but you've never seen a pink robin or a rose robin. Unless you get the opportunity to have a good look at it, it's going to be hard to call.
I remember we were when I was warden up at Broome Bird Observatory, we had a tour out to a particular lake, and whilst there was a lot of wood sandpipers, and they were up the other end of the lake, and we had two gentlemen with us who were from Melbourne. I hope they're not watching, but they spent maybe 15 minutes trying to turn at least one of those wood sandpipers into a rough. I think they needed the tick. And it's like, oh, guys, come on.
That's not. I mean, that's not unusual.
These guys were pretty good birders. I would have felt like they'd come to Broome to go birding, and they had all the gear, and they were like, obviously fairly dedicated to their craft. But I think their enthusiasm was getting the better of them.
Well, I think that's often the thing. I mean, if anyone would speak to Millie about going birding with me, I was adamant a number of times that I saw hoary-headed grebes, and Millie was just like, no.
Non-breeding Australasians by any chance?
Well, yeah, but this is the thing I had never seen because I see lots of Australasian grebes. I mean, they were little grebes when I was a kid and used to see lots of them. I hadn't seen them in that non-breeding plumage where they have the sort of stripy look. They either were they were either russet brown or they were mousy pale brown, like greyy brown. There was no so I had never seen them like that. So I'm just going, hoary-headed grebes, but up north, that's what they all look like.
Yeah. So it's a little bit of an experience will trap us out any time. And well, look, on Sunday, a leaden flycatcher landed in a treetop, and it was straight away. It had this really bluish, like you can get those guys in the light, and they will throw a bit of a blue tinge. This one looked so dark, and with such that blue tinge on it, that blue reflective effect to it, that I just went, satin flycatcher.
Yeah.
And of course, then it sort of hopped down a bit closer, and we saw, wait on, you can see the breast line. And the breast line indicated that, no, this was a leaden flycatcher. So I had to change my call. So anyone can get caught out.
Oh, absolutely.
Unless they go sometimes into a little more detail when you've got birds that are similar, let's face it. And so, it happens. And, I probably make a couple of mistakes every time I go birding. I'll make a call and I'll go like, oh, no, it's not that. It's this. That got me. That bird got me.
But the thing about that, Ricki, is that I don't think you should, hang your personal sense of worth on identifying something that might be difficult, might be an error. And you just need to be prepared to look at other evidence or hear something else that someone else has noticed about it. Go back and have a look and confirm for yourself.
Well, first of all, enjoy your birding.
That's where I was. That's where I wanted to go to next.
Yeah,
Ricki, I wanted to ask everybody before we step through the next bit. Can everybody who's live in the audience who can add a comment, because I know there'll be people watching who can't, and I'm sorry if you can't. You should be on Facebook or YouTube or Twitch, and then you can. Tell me and Ricki, or Ricki and I, let's get the grammar correct. If you would call yourself a twitcher, or are you bird watching for photographs? Are you looking to tick off new birds, or would you be in my camp where I get excited by new birds, but I'm not ticking anything? I don't have. I've said this a million times. I have no idea what my number is, and I don't care. I don't care. But I do remember the first time I saw things. But I'm I'm more into what birds do and where I saw them, and were they hanging out with others, or I've been watching the red wattlebirds chasing the noisy miners around, guarding the eucalypt blossom
They're feeding,
this week.
they're feeding stations.
That's
Yeah,
super fun.
yeah.
That's super fun.
Yeah.
I don't care that they're just red wattlebirds and just noisy miners. So tell us before we step into the next.
I think what it is you're either a bird observer, which it sounds like you are. I class myself as a bird observer, a lister or ticker,
yeah,
a twitcher, and then you got your photographers and what's you got? There's other categories, I'm sure.
Well,
I've been known to twitch a few birds in my time, but I'm not a twitcher. And like you, I can't tell you exactly how many birds I've got because I go birding I go to the same locations all the time. And I would say if you want to be on your best birding game, to go and do that. Go to find your favourite locations and visit there a lot.
That's something that I really enjoy, is getting to know the local birds. But I love traveling and seeing new.
Oh, it's fabulous.
New birds in new places.
There's a lot of it. And I've often thought of this in the past. I mean, thinking of it a lot lately. I'm really a bushwalker who just loves birds.
Well,
and
Ricki, that was the next category I was going to say. There are people who are sort of excellent bird watchers, but they're bird adjacent. Like they come into it from hiking or camping or maybe 4-wheel driving or gardening, but they are excellent birders, and I think that's cool too. Vicky's joined us from Facebook. Hi, Vicky.
Hi, Vicky. How you going? I know Vicky Pentecost on Facebook. Yeah. On Facebook, you on Twitter too, Vicky?
Yeah.
Certainly, I know the Vicky Pentecost name from Facebook.
Yeah. Now, here. Eva's first in. So Eva's a birder, not a twitcher. Eva keeps a list of birds seen, but don't go out of my way to track birds down, etc. Yeah, same here. I don't. But it's about the enjoyment.
There's a rare bird around. I'll go and have a look sometimes. Like when the olive whistler turned up at Barren Grounds, I drove for an hour and a half or more down to Barren Grounds and went and got that little a butte bird. I've gone back there a few times.
But you're not jumping on a plane to go to the Philippines because someone saw a pitter.
I got a very funny story when I first started at Broome. I don't know if I've recounted that to you. It was in my first few days at Broome Bird Observatory, and a rose starling turned up.
Oh, yes.
And we got like a busload of people like all jumped off a plane and were taken out there and got it. And I'm pretty sure, if memory serves, Sean Dooley turned up later that day or the next day and dipped. And then he went back to Melbourne. And then like a day or two later, we found it again. So he jumped on the plane and charged up to see it. And I frustrated everyone because I didn't bother to go and see it on the first day because it was like I was looking at like there were so many little curlew and stuff on the nearby lake that I'm like, I'm just there watching them. And I just thought, no. That just seeing a rose starling in Australia just tells you that vagrant birds come here. But seeing our regular avifauna is something much more exciting to me. I twitch new birds. I just track Latham's snipe. Oh, a Latham's. I'm being told you are a lister and twitcher, aren't you, Vicky? I twitch for you.
And 208 for the year. Now, Vicky, if you are not traveling like extensively, if that's sort of your region, 208 is excellent, is really great in terms of how many birds you're seeing. Now, Martin's made a point, and I have heard this too, and I think I'm a bird noticer, but I'm also an experiential bird watcher. But I often notice birds that other bird watchers that I'm with don't actually see out of the corner of their eye or something like that.
Yeah.
Or
Got
at
superpower.
the bottom of the garden, you know. So
I thought
yeah,
a bird noticer would be a someone who's constantly birding. You know,
I think it's more. Oh
I
well,
notice them all the time.
Martin can tell us where that new term comes from, but I think it's like I certainly have noticed the difference. I've been living, you know, in the same place for 10 years, catching the same buses and the same, you know, doing the same things.
Yeah.
And 10 years ago, nobody was sitting down at the bus stop with me and noticing birds in the canopy of the trees in the park down at the shopping centre. But they do now. There's many more people who are noticing birds. They don't know what they are. They don't, and they probably don't care. But they do notice the rosellas. Oh, sorry, the lorikeets feeding in the shopping centre car park, and what the little ravens are doing as they're picking up the bags, looking for chips, and you know, putting their heads in things. And whereas most people in my experience around here just would go, oh, it's a bird. But now they go, oh, what's that bird doing? Oh,
I wonder what's causing that. Do you think it's kind of like the bird of the year thing and the work done by BirdLife that might be somehow growing this? Or do you think a lot of people tuning into the bird emergency?
I wish the impact of the bird emergency was so profound, but no. But I have had some really nice feedback in the last little while from around the world, which it is really nice. And it's coming from places not the podcast feed. It's coming from YouTube, from Twitch, from Facebook, and that's all nice. But I think that it's an intersection of a couple of things, Ricki. What do you think of this? We had the pandemic where everybody was stuck and we're watching birds and we're feeding birds and going to our local park and doing the same things in the same location for an extended period of time. And it's that familiarity. If you're always in the same playground, you start to notice the noises and the movement and whatnot. And there's no doubt that the Guardian has increased, I think, the penetration into just
It's definitely raised the profile, hasn't it?
Yeah, normal suburban folk. And I also think we should not discount the kind of long-term effect that shows like Burke's Backyard and Gardening Australia and Better Homes and Gardens, Garden Gurus, all that kind of stuff, the features in those magazines that they have with regularly attracting birds to your garden, feeding birds. Every time they do a feature on proteas or something, they always then, as an adjunct, will talk about the birds that come into the garden for those things. So, and of course, the profile of people like Sean Dooley and Holly, and all of the others, because everyone in the region, you know, Tegan and, you know, Mick and then all the people who have been really public, like the Swift Parrot team, the OBP team, on social media. I think all of this has sort of all come together at the one time. And I think climate change and biodiversity activism has also fed into it, that just people are more interested and are looking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because I sometimes wonder if it's just the fact that people know I'm into birds, and then so they're going to speak to me about any birds that they happen to see or ask about them or like that. And you know, that could be. But there has been an enormous growth in birding, especially in the bird photography space. It is crazy. And one of the brilliant things it's done is it's brought so many people of different ethnicities who are into it, and particularly people from the subcontinent, from India, because it's got big in India. And
it's massive in India now.
So many names and so many great photographs. They're obviously people of Indian heritage, or and they they're right into it and taking great photos. And also increasingly people with a Chinese background.
I was just going to say China.
People with a Chinese background bushwalking around Sydney too. They're really embracing it.
Well, I'll say two things about that. Is if you've come to Australia and you have integrated into the Australian community, you're just going to do the same stuff that people do.
Oh,
and
yeah,
people,
yeah.
Right. So people like getting out in their 4-wheel drives or in their boat or in their, bushwalking or whatever. So over a period of time, that's naturally going to feed in. But what I've really loved in the last year or two, Ricki, is I've always been that person who's walking along the street who will see something in the canopy or fly over a rooftop and will stop and look. And I used to say to myself, "Oh, wow, that was a bulbul. Wow, that's unusual." And I would be saying that to myself. Now, if I'm near people, I'll go, "Oh." Actually, on the bus, it was just before I went away with Millie, so it must have been in April. I saw a red-whiskered bulbul on a TV antenna as the bus went past, and I just happened to be playing around with my camera. I hadn't had it long, and I had the camera with me, and I had the 300mm lens on it, and I managed to just get enough of a glimpse to see the crest and the eye patch and the shape of the beak. So, okay. And I looked, and I must have had a satisfied look on my face as I sat back in the seat. And 2 people leant over to me and said, "What was that?" Now, usually people would have looked at me and gone, "Oh, there's one of those bird watching freaks," right? That's what would have happened years ago. But they were both from different places, leaned over and said, "Yeah, what was that?" And I said, "Oh, that was a bulbul, a red-whiskered bulbul, and they're an introduced bird in Australia, and you see them quite often in eastern Melbourne, or more frequently than over here." I said, "I've never seen one on this side of the city," and they went, "Oh, that's really interesting." And for the rest of the journey, they're looking out their window at birds. I reckon that's unreal.
It's cool, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. But I think it's not even a matter of integrating into Australian society. I think for a lot of people who come from overseas, it doesn't take them long to realise that we've got this amazing bush, these amazing places where you can go and just have a walk and appreciate the forest, or you can even kit yourself up with binoculars and camera gear and go and get some photos of view these things and learn about them. And I think I'm personally thinking in terms of somebody who runs tours and birdwatching courses. This is an area I've really got to tap into those ethnic areas where we've got people who would really love to get to know our birds. And that has to be a big untapped area. And even though it's a big growth area, there's got to be a lot more in that. And a lot of people, I know that, and I don't want to stereotype, but I just find there's a lot of people who come from China who have a really beautiful sense of the aesthetics of birds. And
birds are really important in a lot of for a lot of cultural signifiers in China. Like if you see the silk wall hangings and things, cranes and swallows and swifts are really important signifiers.
Lots of cultural cues from nature in China.
Yeah. And China also has a crazy twitching community now. I'm actually I didn't really want to talk too much about it, but I'm trying to get some people that I have spoken to before, not publicly for the show, but that I've been speaking with. I'm trying to get some people from China to come on and talk about their twitching, because some of it, I mean, China's a big country, you know. It's some of the distances and what they do to go and get a tick is absolutely mind-boggling. It's in the Sean Dooley category for sure, and I want to share more of that. India too. There's a real massive twitching community. I mean, we're used to American and British.
Well, I think that this is a reflection of increasing wealth and people having the equipment and the leisure time to go and enjoy these things.
Yeah. Martin's just made the point that most of the eBird contributions are from overseas.
In Australia.
Something I wish a lot of people in the media generally would actually latch on to, Martin. I don't know if people from America and Britain and Australia actually know this, but there's actually more people overseas than there are watching English-speaking TV and getting involved in English-speaking stuff. So, yeah, I want to find a collaborator who can speak Spanish, because obviously there's all of South America, Central America, Mexico, and a whole heap of other places on the map, and French too, where
well, watch Africa.
That's right, Africa and South America. That's
Africa, as upward mobility occurs, you're going to see a lot more in this, and there already are. I've got so many friends on Twitter and Facebook from Africa who are dead keen birders or run bird watching tours, and of course there's the fantastic and so aptly named Fancy Peacock from South Africa, who's just like a birding guru over there, and he's got a huge following. Fabulous character.
As we get, more down the track and more people are joining us regularly, and maybe we should explain to people that it's difficult because you're working and you work with not a regular roster. So you'll have a block where you're available at one time, and then for the next month or two, you might not be available at that time. So we have to ask people, if they want to keep up with the Birdwatching Deep Dive, is that they subscribe or follow and get notifications so that you know when it's coming up, or you go and check the birdemergency.com/live to see what I've got scheduled. But over time, we want to be dragging in, not just looking at these rare bird alerts, which if we've got time, we'll get to shortly, because I've got different places rather than just the ones we would normally gravitate to. So, I want to get some of the people who maintain these Facebook groups or are located in these far-flung places to actually join us and talk about their love of bird watching. But Ricki,
it's the world time factor, isn't it?
That's right. But I do these things anytime, anywhere. If someone wants to talk to me, I'll get out of bed and do it. Now Eva has put something in here, Ricki, and I love comments like this. That's a great point. Yeah, I'm sure it was. But did I make it or did Ricki make it? And what was it? I can't remember.
I'm sure it was a great point because one of us made it. But
that's right.
It's great to see the global rise in birding, and whichever way it comes, whether you're a twitcher, a lister, or a noticer, observer, or photographer or artist. Oh, speaking of art, I'm just going to quickly show you this.
Oh, good, Ricki.
This book.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely breathtaking.
Now is that the new edition of?
His wife put this out. This book is full of joy.
That's right. This is all these unpublished sketches and stuff, isn't it?
Oh, a lot are also published.
What's it called?
It's called The Bird Art of William T.
There we go. Yeah. Oh, it came out about 18 months ago, didn't it?
Wendy put it out. You can get this book is not expensive, and it is just full of joy. Just every page you open to, it's just glorious.
If you're not aware of who William Cooper is, and if you're listening on audio, it will we'll have to explain it. William Cooper or William T. Cooper was the artist who provided all the amazing illustrations for the Joseph M. Forshaw books, Parrots of the World and Parrots of Australia. Of course, all the plates from Parrots of Australia were in Parrots of the World. And they're so good. William Cooper died, what it would be about 3 years ago, would it, Ricki? Maybe a little bit longer?
3 years back, not that long ago.
And of course, one of my uncles gave me the best Christmas present. Oh, it might have been a birthday present, I think, actually. He gave me a copy of the Parrots of the World when I was about 11 or 12. It was amazing. So Eva asked the same question that I did, which book, and it is the Bird Art of William Cooper. And who published it?
This is by NLA.
Look at that. Raggy.
It is just the Ragiana Bird of Paradise. Yeah. I think this one, is it the Ragiana? It is the Ragiana. Published by, it says NLI, I don't know what that is. The National Library of Australia Publishing.
Oh, there we go. Great.
An august body to put together a work like this. I got this for like $32.
So there, Ricki,
it's $10 more than a smoothie.
Can you remind me when we do one of our shows next month, when we're going to talk about unbelievably good gift ideas for bird people? And I think that is an unbelievably good idea for bird people.
It's not necessarily a book you're going to sit down and read cover to cover, but it's a kind of book where you're just going to sit down now and again, pick it up. It's like a coffee table book.
Yeah, it's a lazy Sunday afternoon or lazy Saturday afternoon kind of book.
Look at these rainbow bee eaters having a little dust bath or anting.
Yeah.
Just look at that.
Yeah.
This guy is he just captures the life of birds in these wonderful studies and sketches for his paintings. And oh my God. Oh, look at this.
Yeah, that's a ripper, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, look at that. Who that loves birds would not want this glorious book?
So there we go. There's a...
well, I got it very cheap. It says $64.99 here, but I got it for $32. Oh, I bought it through someone that works there. It's still worth $64.
Yeah.
That's right. I got it half price from someone that works there. But it's worth $64.
Well, still that's pretty cheap for such a great pictorial book.
Lovely hardcover, really well put together. Full of work that will just inspire you and remind you of why you love birds. And if you are an illustrator, and I'm also a bird artist, which is another aspect of my thing. This book is just pure joy and an inspiration for me, who works digitally all the time now, to pull out the pencil and paper and the sketchbook and get back into sketching. And that's what it's done for me too, because it's just so good. You just want
it's inspiring. Actually, Ricki, let's put that down as something we want to talk about in a future episode.
We can even do a whole thing on Forshaw and Cooper.
I was actually thinking rather than talking about Forshaw and Cooper, and we can certainly do that, but I was thinking it would be really useful. I think a really useful topic to talk about, doing sketches in field notes and keeping field notes, and why it is useful for someone to do it, and how it can help you um, increase your skills. But I also think it helps you better understand the location that you're in if you are
Well, we're
sketching
talking about
things.
journaling almost, aren't we? Nature
Yeah,
journaling.
that's right. So let's
And we
talk about
mentioned Paula Peters earlier.
yeah, and maybe we can get somebody who is really good with field sketching in to talk about that with us. But we've solved the issue about which was a great comment. It was yours, Ricki. It wasn't me.
Tapping
It
into
was
migrant
yours about
communities. Yes.
tapping into the migrant communities for profit. Yes, well done. Now,
It's fun. It's there is that aspect that this is how I make my living, but the idea is that no, we want to engage these people. It's really about sharing, and it's about saying, I love this so much that you have to come and love it too, because the only way that I can express that is to share it.
I love when you're out and you're bird watching with anyone who is either brand new to it or is a kid who's just being introduced to it, or somebody who really likes it, but they haven't got the skill yet to tell brown bird 1 from brown bird 2, or honey eater 1 from honey eater 2. And I love it. I love it, that moment of recognition when it sort of snaps for them and they go, oh yes, I've got to look at the nape, or oh yes, that one had pink legs, not red legs. And I love that feeling of or that look of accomplishment. But also for some people, it's just bliss. It's just joy. They sort of go, oh, that's amazing. And there's nothing like watching a little kid who's just worked out how to use their binoculars and is for the first time seeing birds in being brought close to them and being able to and being able to see what birds do, picking insects,
entering into their world, and realizing that there's something going on out there. And well, this is why I really love running bird watching courses, especially for beginners, because there's just yes, it's a great idea, Eva, to get a bird watching course. It's a gift. Actually, but there are to go out with people and be sharing my love of birds with them, and watching them starting to get that excitement and getting the skills to be able to get more out of their birding, and just growing in their own and finding their own way, and they're taking their own footsteps in their own way to enjoy birding. And what better thing to be doing during Bird Week than to be encouraging people in that way.
Now, Martin's made an interesting point. I'll just pop up the comment that there's splits taking place in eBird taxonomy as well as east and west cattle egrets.
That's a good one.
And the intermediate egret is now called the plumed egret. I never liked the name intermediate egret anyway. But that's something that never stops, is it? There's always revisions going on, and every time someone publishes a paper or there's some new genetic work being done, that's going to keep happening. So
where I read this, that's damn, I came across it in a paper somewhere today. There's something else that's because there's been the big black cockatoo revision of late.
And
released on the Calyptorhynchus versus Xander group. So if you've got a yellow tail or a white tail, you're now Xander, and maybe not going to be called black cockatoo anymore, just yellow tailed or Carnaby's or whatever. And all the others with the red tails are Calyptorhynchus.
Yep. And And to me, that makes sense because they're very different. When you have them sitting side by side, the red tails are very different birds than the yellow or white-tailed or Carnabies
Oh,
or Bordens or whatever. So, especially if you see them like, if you've seen them in aviaries, like domesticated birds, and if you've ever walked down a series of flight aviaries and there's red tails in one and then yellow tails in the next one, and you think, yeah, they're probably not that closely related. So that will be interesting. I'm trying to tee someone up about that paper for the bird emergency because it's
yeah,
well
it's
and
pretty
truly
exciting.
time. It just gives me a good opportunity to revisit Carnaby's and the red-tailed black cockatoos in the context of the emergency, and getting onto that. So hopefully that won't be too far
a
along.
really good program if you could get the people onto that. I'm a big fan of the phylogenetic species concept, which means if you do have a discrete population with its own distinctive characters, that this is a species, because that does help us to understand the true patterns of diversity and abundance of life. And certainly the ideas that we have, especially for terrestrial animals, using the biological species concept, which is, does it breed together, then it's a species. That doesn't work. Marine biologists will laugh at such an idea as a rule, I think.
Well, that's where the advances in genotyping, the genetic work that's able to be done with either feathers or blood or has enabled people with your view to really mount a strong case. And look, grass wrens are a really good example in the Australian context, aren't they? Because everything was like a striated grass wren, and or a grey grass wren. And now, what have we got now? 9 or 11 species out of that.
It's enough to
that's
fill
that's a lot of ticks.
Well, the thing, look, there's good and bad with this in some senses. Like, this is really good for conservation because it makes sure that we do preserve the genetic diversity of life around us. But it also does mean that dollars can be split into, it can be put into smaller pots and be less effective, perhaps. But
Ricki, you jumped to what I think was an erroneous conclusion. Not that we will preserve them. It's more like we should, and we probably have an obligation to do it. But I'm not confident that many governments at the moment are committed to preserving and allocating the resources. And I don't mean this just in the Australian context. I just think people are still making policy and allocating resources based on, we've got a whole lot of races of the one species, or we've got subspecies, and do we really need to keep them all? That's going to be terribly expensive.
Well, we just saw Larissa Waters stand up in Parliament and say, how come our environment minister is still ticking off on coal mines, saying that there is no necessity for her to take into account global warming?
I'm always flagging things that I'm hoping to do, Ricki, but I have reached out. I have reached out to a couple of parliamentarians to come on the show. I hope we'll be able to get them on just to talk about these.
I'll have a chat to some that I know. And,
that would be great. Do you?
Yeah.
Well, actually, we won't mention them on
air because I want.
I want them to be able to.
Have the right refusal.
Well,
I want to put them on the spot.
They're busy people too. Yeah.
The one I'm thinking of isn't as busy as they once were.
Okay. Are they on? They're not on committees because that's. That's what often ties them up when they're when Parliament's not sitting and people think, they're not busy. Well, yeah, they are. They're doing committee work for a lot of them. Those that work hard are doing committee work.
Yeah, like I know Nationals and Greens.
Yeah, well, It's really the Greens and some of the independents I've reached out to.
Yes,
I
there
don't
are
even
some
get.
professionals
I
out
don't
there,
get past the.
and
I
they're
have
doing.
written to a couple of Labor people, but I don't even get a response to the. I've tried ringing and emailing and actually writing paper letters, and apparently there's a legislative requirement that they acknowledge correspondence, but I haven't had any acknowledgement yet. So, and one of them is nearly 2 years since I first wrote to them. So they must be very busy people. That's all I can say.
Mm,
Um,
yeah. Well,
uh,
I'm looking at the blue book, and this is old enough where there aren't nine new species.
no, that's right. No, when we're talking about grass wrens and
No, I saw something about the Rufus fantail.
oh yeah, I've just popped that up now. Yeah, Rufus
Mm,
fantail.
amazing.
Yeah, that nearly all the distinct populations and and what I think we were calling them subspecies in the blue book um, have been split out. But no,
Yeah.
but this isn't all universally agreed. That's the other thing too.
No,
Uh,
and there's always because it comes out as
it's
a paper, and
that's right.
this has to go. I think it's BirdLife who have the committee of nomenclature
Yeah,
and
yeah.
probably have the final say on all these sort of taxonomical questions. And,
In Australia,
I think so. Yeah.
it's quite complex because that committee I think will determine what we call them officially in Australia for the purposes, for bird life purposes and whatnot. But if there's a researcher attached to uh, a university in the UK or a university in the US who is doing a revision of something in Day or they're not bound to follow the guidelines set here. They can go their own merry way, and you might find another international body will say, "Yeah, we accept that revision." So this is where it just gets difficult, and
Yeah.
why if you know what the bird is and you can tell it apart from some other, and you call it, like I still call when I'm out there going, 5 little grebe. I know what they are, and usually the people next to me know that they're the Australasian grebe, but I'm old and I still say little grebe because that's what I always knew. It's still the same bird.
Yeah. No, it's been long enough. I made that switch, but I think it's time, and we've done this before, but eponymous names I think really need to be done. Yeah, academics do love to disagree because that's how you make your name. Like someone has a position, the only way to have your name is to have a contrary position, isn't it?
Right, and you have to have evidence to support your position, and then somebody else, if they've got what they think is a different idea, they will counter with some different evidence, and over time, the body of work and the body of evidence will see where we all go. But from year to year or month to month, all these things change so much.
Yeah. Well, there's sort of some terminologies too. I'm really interested in, and I have moved to this with fairy wrens because the status of what we've called breeding plumage, I don't think is really breeding plumage so much as adult plumage. And
yeah,
I've been noticing in the fairy wren project that they use the terms dull male, bright male,
Yep, that's
intermediate
right.
male.
It was eclipse. It was really that eclipse plumage that they chucked out first. Actually,
because it's not eclipse plumage.
No, and that's a term. That's a term from birds from another part of the world that have totally different life cycles. Really,
It's ducks because ducks will have some plumage that covers their actual plumage and then at different times of the year to disguise themselves and things like that.
Yeah.
But with fairy wrens, eclipse plumage is definitely a no good.
Well, we're showing our age, Ricki, because I don't think eclipse has really been in the terminology for the modern books for about 10 years, has it? So
maybe
it's not in the blue book, is it? I think they say breeding and non-breeding.
But even breeding and non-breeding, because there are males who stay in that bright plumage pretty much all year round, if not all year round. after they reach, it seems for different species this might vary, and for some species it happens or doesn't happen at all. But 2 years or 3 years, males that superb fairy wren in the Sydney region at least around about 3 years, and they will stay pretty much year round in bright plumage. Intermediates, younger males move in and out of that plumage. And, first years, of course, in dull plumage, which resembles a female apart from some, the bill colour and laws. So that's an area which, that's a whole other, that's a really good discussion to be had about how we describe things like that in birding.
Now, I just thought, Ricki, that we have been talking about the Blue Book, and if people are only listening, they might not know. Oh, I've got the green screen on, so of course when I hold it up, it disappears. We are talking about
a few minutes ago. Describe.
We're talking about the Australian Bird Guide. That's right. And published by CSIRO, which is basically the currently the standard bird book that you want to have in as a field guide and a reference guide. If you are in Australia,
the compact version.
That's right. They do have the red one. There is a red version which is a smaller and has less of the descriptive information in it, and is ideal for throwing in your backpack or your. It almost fits in a bum bag, doesn't it, Ricki?
Not quite, but it is. Not quite. I don't think, but it definitely fits very nicely into a backpack. It's very lightweight.
Yes,
and you can do it. In fact, I must admit, I don't generally take a field guide when I'm around Sydney, but I did for our recent when I go out on my birdwatching courses with people, so that I have the book ready, I can whip it out, and I notice that they all whip it out too. Yep. So and it's just, you don't notice in the pack. It's so light. It lives up to its name. It's very compact, and fabulous book. Fabulous.
Yeah,
if you have a field guide, it's my favourite.
And I might add that's probably the only thing in a polite company in a group like that it's acceptable to be whipping out, for everyone to be whipping it out.
Is that a term I didn't know that was a term like that.
Well, I'll just let that one hang in the air. I don't think it needs any further discussion. I just couldn't. I just couldn't resist. It must be my friend group that is.
Your circle of friends. I think
my circle of friends.
My circle of friends, we whip out the field guide.
Yeah, well, if my circle of friends are standing around and whipping something out, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there at all. Ricki, I can see how our time is kicking away, so I want to.
It's gone.
Yeah, so I want to ask. I want to ask the Riot Squad to comment on two things, and it can either be what have we got here? Martin's always coming in with the good stuff. Photograph a lot of red-backed fairy wrens. Breeding is going crazy here now up in Gladstone. I noticed there are normal coloured males. Then there are others that have a lot more mantle feathers covering wings to over tail. So they're the ones that are looking fluffy. Is that right? The puffy, the ones who look like they've got this really expansive. It looks like they've got that expander foam kind of feathers that is just erupting out of their body.
Well, they'll do this to display, of course.
Yeah.
And they do it. You'll often, if you're lucky, you'll see it with redbacks and superb fairy wrens, is the seahorse flight.
Yeah.
Which is where they will fly with their tail pointing straight down, often with their their crest,
Their
kind of
crest
like
up.
all of
Yep.
their crest,
Yep.
and they fluff up. In the case of the redback fairy wren, they just turn into a red pom-pom with a little
Yeah.
black tail and some little brown wings, furiously beating as they fly vertically from plant to plant. And this seems to be to let the girls know that you're available and you're looking fabulous.
Yeah. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me.
Well, it beats buying a red sports car.
Oh, absolutely. Or
It's the bird equivalent of having a red sports car, because it does two things. It not only says to the girls, I'm amazing, come and see how fit I am, because a red sports car says, I can buy this frivolous car that I'm only going to pull out on the weekends, and it takes a great deal of resources, and it says, I've got all of this excess, money that I could be spending on your children, on our children, indeed. Why don't you get in my red sports car? And but also, when you do have the girls in your red sports car, all the other males get to see that and become somewhat deflated and realize that they are not one of the alphas, and they learn their place.
That's right. And so they go and log on to Jordan Peterson.
Something like that. Well, yeah, it's just fact a lot. And it could also be that they are somewhat hormonally suppressed by it. Yeah. And I have heard that satin bowerbirds hormonally suppress the young males in their locality as well.
So that
I'd love to be able to find that paper if anyone can find that for me.
So they head off into the undergrowth and do the equivalent of binge watch 5 seasons of Star Wars. Not Star Wars, Star Trek, various Star Trek variations. So they're going, I'll never be the guy in the red sports car.
Possibly. I would have thought that was more for people who watch Star Wars than Star Trek. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway.
Red sports car owners watch Star Trek.
Ricki, usually it's me that goes off on the insane tangents. But so thank you. Thank you very much.
But I think but I do think
being the one.
Well, no, but it is just a fascinating part of the story of birds, and a reminder to us when we're looking at those things that we are part of all of this too. That we have so many behaviours and instinctive behaviours we don't think about, but we think around them while we're doing them, and we don't realise this is just pure instincts driving us, just as we see so much of what we call pure instincts in the animal world, and we don't know how much they are thinking around these things themselves as they go about them. And it's so I think we like to think we're above it all and unique, and that there's a God in that we are made in the what is it, the made in the form or whatever of God, and that that he must be one of us because we are the crown of creation. We are made in God's image and blah blah. And so we think we're very much above it all. Sorry for that religious rant. No.
It's okay, because I'd been wanting an opportunity to actually put this comment that someone put to me. I had a discussion with someone the other day, about a fortnight ago now, and it was a religious person, and I just said to them, do you think birds have souls? And they said, no, that's ridiculous. Birds don't have souls. That's what separates man from the beast. And I said, so they don't have souls, so they can't be in heaven. And this person said, no. And I said, so you really want to go somewhere for eternity where there's only people and no animals? And that person had obviously never contemplated that idea ever before.
This is like Elon Musk Mars. Never see a bird or a butterfly or an insect again, or never have a hope to see a kangaroo or a herd of zebras, or
Oh, but it doesn't matter when you're on Mars because you'll have the
Everything automatically
you'll have the
fills up.
metaverse, and you'll be able to walk around
Yeah.
enjoying nature like this.
Posting on
Uh,
X.
Anyway, I did have two questions I wanted to put to the right squad. Ricki, remember when we were first talking about doing this program regularly, like this sort of get together, and we thought that as we were developing, it might be good to try and organise some meetups and to do some sort of workshoppy things in different places. What I would first like people to say is, would you be interested in attending if we took this this partnership, this shambolic partnership, to a location near you? And the reason I'm asking is, if there's no interest in it, I'm not even going to waste a moment planning ahead and thinking about it. But if there is, well, it would probably take us something like a year to actually work it out how we were going to do it. So that means you need to start thinking about it and how it would work and where we would do it. So just let us know if something like a Saturday morning in a local park, hanging out with me and Ricki, might be something that you would consider would be fun. Could be a Saturday morning, it could be some other time. So that's the first thing.
We can pretty easily do a bird emergency birding meetup, in somewhere around Sydney, and really easy, or somewhere around Melbourne. Just
and
jump on a respective aircraft, and there we go. Polish up the binoculars.
And depending on other things, it could be other places as well. And just never know.
Yeah.
But
that's just about to get my newfangled car, so I'll be.
So that's it. Let us know. Okay. Well, I kind of thought Eva might say yes because she's already hanging out with you. So that's great. Now I can't remember what the other question was, so I might even just leave it. Oh no, I know what it was. It's about what do you like it? Do you like when we have a look at the rare bird alerts, and just, even though we don't know those birds, is there any point us doing those apart from the areas we're familiar with to talk about in detail? Or do you just like I pulled some random ones today that we haven't had time to have a look at yet, but would you like us to keep going with the rare bird alerts? Or was just rapping like we did today much more fun? That's really all I want to know.
I think too, that on those rare bird alerts, that redback kingfisher thing, boy, that's been a big thing the last few weeks here in Sydney. People get that.
I did have a look at a number around Australia, different locations, and you mentioned in your email, Ricki, about crakes, crakes are popping up all over the place. So it must have been a fantabulous breeding season, and that they're just dispersing everywhere. I would assume.
Reporting Balin's crakes and
spotless, everywhere. Yep.
Yeah, really getting a lot of buzz with that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So
exciting. And I'm going to. They're really cool little birds. Like crakes and rails are exciting, and often it's so opportunistic. Like you're there, and there it is, runs across in front of you, in their sometimes very comical fashion, and that's it. And you just go, well, that was a Lewin's rail.
Lewin's rail, great bird. One of the interesting ones that I saw in Melbourne and was in one of the Facebook groups, had popped up, someone asking for an ID, and it was a painted button quail. So that's not one that's usually seen in someone's. It was in a suburban park similar to where I hang out. just a little patch of a cusp of trees. So yeah, there's interesting things out there. I always say you never know what.
Quite a little or odd little things like that, the way they turn up. Yeah, they're cool. It is our next. Eva will be glad to know where our next course takes us to a reserve in northwestern Sydney where painted button quail are definitely on the go. I pretty much always get them up there. And it just takes a little bit of good trail craft, knowing how to walk a trail properly and stealthily, and being quiet enough and observant and know what to look for and listen for, and you can get your painted button quail. And it's such a beaut bird, real beauty.
Yeah. And Eva's noted that, yep, I think the rare bird alert discussion is great, either going through the list or general riffing. Now, you just reminded me of something that I need to let people know as well. Oh, Martin's got another one as well. We have the noisy pitter in the Toondoon Botanic Gardens. Yeah, which the Toondoon Botanic Gardens is the Gladstone Botanic Gardens. I think I'm correct there. And Canoe Point is down at Tannum Sands, down on the coast near at the mouth of the Boyne River, I think. So
I've only been there once when it was hardly there, and the next time when it was totally built out.
Yeah, well, that was my experience too. I was there. First time I was there was nothing. Yeah, first time I was there, you could see the refinery or the whatever the plant is. You could see that out on the island, and it was just this estuary, and it was there was nothing there. And then when
it's like Agnes Waters and 1770.
1770, Rainbow Beach, all those places. Yeah. The whole of that whole Maryborough area.
Mission Beach. I camped on Mission Beach back in the 70s, and it was like, it was beautiful, and it was just like only one little row of homes. It was just this little tiny place from on the coast from Tully. Don't forget us Queenslanders. I would love to do a Queensland thing.
Well, Gladstone is somewhere that I would definitely want to go and do something. I reckon it's I love that Botanic Gardens there. It's fantastic. I would love to go there and do some horticulture thing again. Now Vicky said
it would be a weekend one.
Yeah. I think that's what we would be aiming for, like a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning. And yeah, definitely. And I mean,
it's the kind of thing you could do a weekend.
Well, that was the idea, and what we sort of talked about. I would be thinking of getting somebody to come along who has been involved in Photography Friday to come and talk, to be a photography expert. I would talk about horticulture adjacent stuff and bird stuff, and Ricki would be like the bird guru. And there would probably be other people who would want to be coming along. So it would really be a meetup, and we might even do like a panel show and do a live show as well as hanging out and have some tucker, and maybe invite some school kids and get the local nursery. So it would probably turn into be something like a bit of an event, but not something where we're trying to foist anything on you other than having a good time and learning some stuff. So
picking up some of the local knowledge off the locals, I can say it's far out.
Yeah. Now, Ricki, I haven't talked about this with you, but I'm going to tell the folk. I know. I think we did have a little discussion that I had been thinking, what am I going to do with the Birdwatching deep dive in terms of a podcast? Not the because a lot of people who love the Bird Emergency for the talking about a different species or a project and going through an academic paper or something, they love that format, and they
Yeah,
hate the extra stuff in the feed. And some people are saying to me, "Oh, I love Monday with Holly, and I love Photography Friday, and I love the deep dive." So I just got an email today, which it's probably not new, but I hadn't seen it in everything that had been coming through. YouTube now, with their YouTube music, have made it easy to do a podcast, to release podcasts just into YouTube. I'd already been doing the audio only into YouTube, and no one goes near them. They don't look at them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take up YouTube's kind offer of starting a podcast on YouTube, and all of the extra stuff that I used to dump in the Bird Emergency podcast feed on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all that, I'm no longer going to do that. I'm going to put these sessions and Holly and Photography Friday and all the other things that are not really the standard podcast. They're going to go into the Apple Music Bird Emergency podcast, and it's going to be
YouTube Music. You mean
yeah. It's in the YouTube Music app, and I haven't set it up yet, but that's where it will be, and I'll let everyone know. But that's where it's going to go, and then extra special stuff. I'm putting all the already released stuff will go into Substack and Patreon in the free feed. But that's a lot of work to get that all uploaded and done. But initially, all this stuff, like when I finish with this and download it, and it'll appear in the next couple of days in YouTube Music. So get that app, and once I've got it up and running, I'll let you all know. If you want to be on the mailing list, head over to buymeacoffee.com. That's where the mailing list at the moment lives, or it's on the homepage of thebirdemergency.com. I think it's on the homepage, and you can get into that, and I'll put if there's a how-to that's needed, I'll let you know. But that's where it's going to go. I'm going to stop uploading these live shows when they are done again into other things. One, it'll save me a lot of work, and two, it means I'm not confusing the message. So just wanted to let you all know that, so that if you, there's been a lot of people really tell me that they don't like the confused feed, but there's a lot of people who say they really like it. And I just want people to be able to find it if they want it, and to get it. And look, over time, the podcast will continue as a podcast, but it's not really growing. I want to grow this community. It's much more fun doing this. It seriously is, than editing out ums and ahs out of a podcast. Much more fun.
Right, yeah. So, because we all love someone to sit down and talk about their paper or their research or their study and that kind of thing. And but if you really like that, you might not necessarily like, Grant and Ricki being bird nerds and having a banter about birds in a more free-flowing way, because a lot of that is their experience anyway, and it's just like, especially if they're like really keen and regular birders. It mightn't quite be the thing.
And the other thing too, I've always wanted to build this into something that I could turn into something where I could maybe earn 20 grand a year doing stuff, so that I didn't have to do other stuff. And YouTube's a basis for that. The podcast, you need 10,000 people listening to every episode before anyone's going to sponsor your podcast, and nobody is listening to bird science in numbers of more than about 300, 400, 500 people listening to every episode every week or every fortnight, whenever it goes out. So it's a small and really passionate and loyal audience, and I don't want to upset them. But at the same token, or at the same time, I don't want to stop people having access to or being able to discover this stuff. And I reckon, even though sometimes we talk about things like whipping it out that are not exactly in the bird sphere, but we're having fun, and I think we have some really important things to say in every episode. Might only be one or two things, but I want people to be able to discover it, and YouTube is a great way for people to discover new stuff. Oh, actually, I got a.
Well, I think it's a great place to build community.
Yeah,
and I think it's a great idea to use this as a vehicle for getting out there, bringing birders together in a physical sense, like using the digital world to bring people together physically. That's ultimately got to always be our game.
Yeah,
and to get people and share birding and do kind of like, the Burke's Backyard used to do, or the Australian gardening show, Gardening Australia, whatever it is. They go and do there. They have their digital format, but they go out and they do things in the community and get people fired up and passionate and involved and engaged in it all.
Yeah, absolutely. I hadn't checked my comments on YouTube for about a month, maybe a little bit longer. So, because I have to log into a different app to find them easily. So I logged into the Creator app and looked at the comments, and one of them, I should have got it ready to show everyone, but it just said, "Oh my God, have I found an Australian bird channel? This is great." So that was cool. So if you happen to be listening or watching, thanks for that. I did give you a heart in response and a thumbs up. But yeah, it's really nice when people do discover it and appreciate it and like it. Makes it easy to front up for the next time you got to get up at 5 o'clock to interview someone in America, or stay up until 1 o'clock after getting up at 5 o'clock to speak to someone in the UK or in South Africa or something. So yeah. It's good. Yeah. Okay, Ricki, anything else you would like to?
Well, I think we've covered all things, except just to say, have an amazing bird week, everyone, and happy birding.
Yes, it is Bird Week, so it is a
it's
celebration.
Also Frog Week.
Yeah.
It is Frog Week. Get your frog app. Get your Frog ID app.
Frog ID app.
Frog ID app out. This fabulous thing. Whoops.
And look, coming up too, in November is the Great Southern Bio Blitz, which runs sort of with the SITSI groups and with iNaturalist, and I'll be doing some features on that. And now that I've decided how to approach the podcast, like the official podcast, and what not to dump in it, I'm going to be speaking to a lot of people about the Bio Blitz and hoping that you guys in the Riot Squad and all of you bird nerds who are picking this up a bit later and not live, your mobile phone's such a great way to learn about the plants and the critters, the insects, the spiders, the other arthropods that you see in gardens. Yep, that's right. It's citizen science.
If you do get some of your bird calls wrong, it doesn't matter. Yep. Even if you do think that you've seen a pink robin and you might have actually seen a rose robin, it doesn't really matter, because most of the time you'll get it right.
That's right. And the times that you get it right, it makes a really really important contribution to the global data set. So iNaturalist is really important for that. eBird, bird data. I mean, bird data is Australian, but it's shared with everyone. So that's what we're trying to do, Ricki. We've done it. We've made it to the end of another birdwatching deep dive. Oh, I did want to ask you too. I just want to get a comment. Coming from I'm not sure if everyone is aware of your historical stature as an athlete in Australia, competitive sports.
Now.
How about how wonderfully well swimming looks like it's trying to blow itself up in this country? Isn't it weird?
What are
What's
they
go?
doing?
Oh, the international body might expel the Australian Swimming Federation because of the constitution that they wanted to adopt, which doesn't meet the international guidelines. So there's all this stuff going on. It's just amazing. And I was surprised you haven't heard about it because it was all over the back
Well, I
pages
don't
of a
know
couple of
what
the papers.
guidelines you refer to, but I didn't. I was actually. I don't know. I won't say too much publicly about anything that Swimming Australia's done. I come from a running background, anyway, not a swimming one, but I've been approached. Anyway.
Oh, that's good. That people are getting you. People are getting your input in some development of policy.
Oh,
That's
I've
what
had
it
a fair
sounds
bit
like.
of input. It was very funny though. Yeah. Recently, I was giving a talk. In fact, I give regularly my job at a particular zoo here in Sydney, teaching students. And I said, we were talking about taxonomy and binomial names. And I said, so when I introduced myself here today, I just said my name was Ricki, and that's only so much information. But if I'd have given you my whole name, Ricki Coughlan, now you have a whole lot more information, which is why we call, a lion, Panthera Leo. If we just called it Leo, you might not be able to find out its family tree. But now you know my name's Ricki Coughlan, you can find out all kinds of information about me. So some little kid whipped out the phone and Googled. Yeah. And if you Google me, it's very interesting, folks. That little flag up there. Where is it? I'm really terrible with the background. Yeah. It's saying something. And about my sporting history and my media profile in that respect.
Yeah. And actually, I
had to give a little talk to the class.
And we generally don't comment on the flag. I think it just speaks for itself. It's just there to indicate that
trans rights are human rights.
Yeah, and I certainly count myself as an ally. And I was thinking today of adding 2 more flags.
I could think of that.
So I just thought, we might do the Aboriginal flag and the Torres Strait Islander flag as well.
We don't do an acknowledgement of country at the beginning of this.
No, and I have to say, Ricki, it's not for any reason other than I want to be consistent. I do the acknowledgement of the unceded lands of the Wurundjeri people in my first seen and heards each morning. And that's just the introduction. I need to do a little video introduction where I acknowledge the land that I create this on. I have reached out to get what people think is the appropriate way to do it, and I don't like the standard welcome to country when it's a white fella saying it, because
you even mean the acknowledgement of country.
Yeah. Well, what I have been wanting is somebody to give me the preferred way that not just one group would like, but we're going sort of Australia. Yeah, but the other thing I have been thinking too is I want it to be consistent across all of the things I do, and we're speaking to the world as well. So I want it to be applicable for all First Nations people, because I think if you are going to be an ally in Australia, you also need to think, you just said, human rights are universal. Yeah. No. But that's the point. Yeah, that human rights are universal. So I want it to be
and I do acknowledge that often cis women see a clash in rights between trans rights and their rights as well, and that can't go unacknowledged. Though sometimes it is vastly overstated.
Yeah, no, so that's right. So don't take it that I'm trying to say, I want to welcome in the J.K. Rowlings of the world. No, I don't. They can fuck off right off. But all the different. I just want to come up with a form of words that is.
Well, I think it's a really nice approach. I'm really into it. Yeah,
and because if I don't record it and have it as like a video that I play as part of the countdown or something like that, I'll mess it up every time. I'll say something different all the time, and that's when people get upset. Like, I get so much crap, direct messages and stuff, just because I say the unceded lands of the Wurundjeri people. Look, I'd be interested in people's comments on this. The reason I say the unceded lands of the Wurundjeri people, for where I sit my fat ass, is that is the bit, that is the word that is always left out of all the functions, the public functions.
Unceded, yeah.
Yep. And that's what it was. It was conquered. It was stolen. The Aboriginals have never, Indigenous people, First Nations people, and again, I'm an old fella. I still slip into words that people don't generally accept now, even though the intention is not anything but welcoming and I mean, I want to be led. I'm a colonizer, right? I'm a descendant of colonizers. I want to be led by the First Nations people about what I should be saying or what they would, how they would like it to be appropriate. And I think at this time, especially after the weekend that we had here, I don't want to be the person leading the discussion or making the decisions. And I've reached out to a number of people, First Nations people who are in the media space, for some guidance, and to people from North Americans, for First Nation people, Canada and the United States, and also some people, Indigenous people from the Philippines and whatnot. I think the message needs to be, I don't know. It's a difficult one because obviously there's people who will be probably going, look, you're talking to Australians, but no, it sits out there. This stuff sits out there forever. And if I'm interviewing people from around the world, I want it known and understood that my standpoint is that the human rights of all people are things that we should value and we should think about. And I don't think we do think about it in Australia. I see people who I know do not act as allies, who participate in, the welcome to country, where so I think if it's, I mean, it just seems weird to me that someone like me would be giving a welcome or an acknowledgement from words that I've borrowed from someone else, that I might have heard at the local library or at a local council meeting. I just because
it's bigger than that, isn't it? It's bigger.
Yeah, it is, and it's got to mean something. I don't want to do anything tokenistic. I'm not interested in.
It is also very, very simple, and you will get this if you go walking with an Indigenous person. But I put a little bit of unrhyming prose together last night that gives a bit of perspective about this. And if people will indulge me, I might just read it out to you if you like.
Yeah, go for it.
And it goes, in the year 65,754, or in the year 65,754, the constellations will all be recognisable and the Southern Cross no more. In the year 65,754, Australia and New Guinea will be 4.5 kilometres further north than currently. In the year 6574, the Earth will be in the middle of an ice age caused by the planet's orbit change and axis wobble. In the year 65,754, the Moon will be 2.5 kilometres more distant from the Earth and our ocean tides slightly reduced. In the year 6574, Earth's days will be 24 hours and 25 minutes long. In the year 6574, the stars, Antares and Betelgeuse, will be distant memories, having long ago gone supernova. In the year 6574, Niagara Falls will be a distant long forgotten memory. In the year 754, the clock of the long now will have rusted away. In the year 754, there will be no remains of any 21st century civilization. In the year 754, Gliese 445 will be the nearest star to Earth. In the year 754, Voyager 1 will be a further 3,681,915,600,000 kilometres from Earth. In the year
did you do that maths?
754, Europeans will have lived on Australia for as long as Aboriginals have today.
That's right.
That's pretty mind-numbing. Yeah, I did all the math.
Yep.
And
no,
it is when you see it in that perspective, see how long 65,000 years is or more, and how long they've lived there. And I did a little graphic the other day, and I made a circle with an Aboriginal flag that was 1,000 pixels across, and comparing that to representing 65,000 years. And I did the math on that. The pixel that I had to create for the amount of time we've been here was 1/3 of a pixel.
Yeah. No,
it is just breathtaking that we just arrived and said this was terra nullius, and not only took it, but took it in terrible ways, without so much a buy or leave or a willingness to share or anything, or ask if can we come here, can we be here at all? What can you tell us?
I watched an episode of the Majority Report the other day, where the guest for the interview had just written a book after about 10 years study, professor at one of the US universities, and he had started looking at the dispossession of the Native American people, but he went all the way back to the historical justifications that colonizers had used right through written history and Christian history, and all of the justifications of all of the colonial powers, be they France or Spain or Germany or Portugal or Belgium or England, Holland, all can be traced back. The body of law, the case law that they all use to justify it, goes back to the Pope and the Christian soldiers, and it predates the Crusades. It goes way back. But when accepted legal principles of today are applied to all of those previous justifications, none of it holds up. And and he was saying, well, look, he knows that in practical terms, we're not going to rewrite the wrongs of history and dispossess people now, but what we can do is recognize it, and just recognize it, talk about it openly, and then start to talk about how privilege over many centuries for some societies has been able to occur from the illegal dispossession of people based on the principles that we all are enshrining in our own parliaments and whatnot now, right? Yeah. So
but that's not intergenerational trauma.
Yeah. No, it's all linked, and
you can also say that we're not the only ones. That Islam did this.
Absolutely,
China did it.
But they had a different legal.
Does it?
Yeah. They had a different legal basis, but it was all pretty much similar. It's nearly always based on an imperial body conquering other people. But
the Mongols.
But this guy's work was all based on Christian dispossession. But so just tying it back to the point of the discussion, is the reason there's no Aboriginal flag or no Torres Strait Islander flag up there is that, one, I'm not part of that community. You are part of the community that the flag that we do show is up there. I wouldn't put it up there if it was just me doing the show, because I think that is not my place. My place is to be an ally.
Yep. I think you can do it as an ally and supporter. Yep. And I think that can be recognised. It's a thing like, I make sure I've got a little rainbow somewhere on me when I'm at work, because I want all the children who come to see me that A, it's okay, and B, if they are LGBTQ, that there's a life out there waiting for them.
Yeah,
that they can do something. So many kids, they aspire to work in a zoo, and they see people working in a zoo and understand that there's LGBTQ plus people in a zoo as well. Yeah. And LGBTQ plus people bird. I'm sure. Could I say that it's a bit of a hotbed? It's a bit of a hotbed.
And look, I was totally unaware of how much of a hotbed it was until the last couple of years. But look, I'm very, very rapidly approaching the milestone of 60, and my views are quite significantly different from the last 10 or 15 years than they were, and that's because I didn't know, and I wasn't looking, I wasn't listening, I wasn't looking. I was self-absorbed in my own stuff, in living my life with people who were not involved and interested as well. And I think we're really lucky now that everything is being presented to us, and we are able to understand it, and we are able to adjust our attitudes. What you were born with and grew up with doesn't have to be how you choose to live your life. And I think it's important that if you're going to make a decision to be an ally, that you are a bloody ally. You don't just put on a patch or put a poster on your wall and then not live the values. So, and I think, I certainly communicate my views a whole lot differently than I did 10 years ago. And there's a lot of people in my friend and family group who don't understand it and don't like it. And guess what? They're no longer part of my life. And that's just the way I chose it. I'm not prepared to compromise on the on being authentic about being an ally. And everyone can change, and by jingoes, I have, I really have.
I know I live a pretty privileged existence within my community, but and I'm ever mindful of that. But I think that it's important to put my hand up appropriately and say, "Hey, I'm part of that community," and just so that people know, because it's to represent and to be out there and to remind people that we are part of the world too. I think it's important.
I just want to add something too, where Stormy said always was, always will be. Sometimes I hear white fellas and the term I don't like, new Australians, but people whose families may have come to Australia more recently than mine did, and they will say something like, "Yeah, but the Aboriginals used to have wars, and some Aboriginal groups dispossessed others." And I said, "Yeah, that's right, but that's their business, right? It's not for us to justify the dispossession that our society has grown out of. It's not for us to point to something in the prehistory of the nation of Australia that we knew nothing about when we and I don't even like saying we, because I didn't do it, right?
But did our ancestors care when they colonised and took everything and poisoned the flower and poisoned the wells and did mass shootings?
That's right.
And went hunting for sport. Did they care about what Aboriginals were doing prior to white colonisation? No. So
that's right. So I just wanted to point out that sometimes when I often hear people when always was, always will be is said in mixed company, people will often get onto the trope about but they were fighting and everything. That's just in my view, it's base ignorance, and it's usually because people haven't even considered it. And if they have considered it, if they have considered it and they still say it, it's just racist. There's no other way around it. It's ill considered these days, and I would have said something like that when I was in my 20s or 30s, I reckon.
Yeah.
I don't know that I ever did, but I reckon I would have lent on those touchstones of the Australian society that we like mateship, as if no other country in the world, when their soldiers have been injured on the battlefield, that no other people go back and get their pull out their wounded under enemy fire, because it's all bullshit. It is all bullshit, and we need to recognise it if we want to be better people, better global citizens.
Yeah, the whole patriotism thing that we're uniquely wonderful and above everyone else. And this is always a source of trouble. This and religion are always the war makers. The patriotism and the religions are the war makers of the world.
Do you know I cop a lot of DMs
right now? Much as we're seeing right now, a religious war and a war of patriotism, and we've got two of them going on.
I do get a lot of DMs about why are you so anti-religious, and I sort of think, well, it's not so much that I'm anti-religious, but I am pro-science, and if someone can explain to me how the stories have a basis in science, or if the metaphysical being can be explained to me, I'm willing to take it on board. but where I just have to believe it because you say so or someone said so, I'm sorry, that's not where I come from. And you can believe what you like, but you can't make I don't think that you should be making laws and policy decisions for other people based on your metaphysical beliefs, because otherwise we should be doing, there's an awful lot of people who at one stage in their life believe in the Tooth Fairy and the Easter Bunny, and I have not seen too many laws that have been introduced catering for the believers of the Tooth Fairy. So anyway, I didn't want to get political today, but I do really want people to. I'm not going to shut up about. Political. Yeah, I'm certainly not going to shut up about things I care about.
Often birds will bring us into politics anyway, because the way our politics are shaped affects the it's playing a major role in the global extinction.
Well, I was super pissed this morning because it got past me, but I had seen. We spoke about it with Holly. Holly hadn't seen the news that New South Wales Labor had deferred a bunch of projects and then has cut a whole lot of people in biodiversity and inclusion and Indigenous offices to save money. And then today I saw the news that the review into and the recasting of the Environmental Protection and Biodiversity Act, we're all too busy. It's not really a priority at the moment. We'll at the earliest opportunity, sometime next year, the government will get around to looking at it. So the clowns aren't serious; they're just not. No. And it makes me angry. And I put a tweet out on about the New South Wales decision where I just said, well, Labor have just been running a 25-year environment pantomime, and they're just continuing it, and that's, so, and I made the snide comment, just wait for Harold from Neighbours or Paul Robinson from Neighbours. They'll be, because they go off and do the pantomimes in Britain each year. They'll be turning up on the front bench shortly. It's just
it's a travesty what's happened, and this should not be. We should not live in a country where national parks are the only places you can go to see our wildlife, and we should not. Look, you're talking to someone who became a vegan in 1974 when they realised what animal agriculture was doing and would do to the world in the future. So I look at that and global industrial fishing, and I just, whoa. That's a subject you can't even begin to talk about.
I think we talked about that last time, didn't we, Ricki?
We might have, and we probably should have. Should be always spoken about.
But
all of these things all come together and are issues that we are going to have to address.
Yeah, I just get upset when in Bird Week, when you would hope that we would have some allies in the political sphere, that these two announcements come out that just show that we're not serious. And I haven't had the opportunity.
Good news.
What was the good news?
The good news is that the aerial cull of horses in Kosciuszko National Park is looking like it will proceed.
Yeah,
as it should.
I've held back on that. I've held back on celebrating that because, one, it hasn't started yet, and we haven't seen the real backlash. Now that the decision has been made, we haven't seen the backlash.
All of this will happen.
Yep, and it's like duck shooting in Victoria. It's been recommended by the parliamentary committee, but it hasn't been stopped. When it's stopped, I'll celebrate. When they start dropping horses in the Alpine National Park around Kosciuszko as well, when the Alpine meadows are able to be not degraded any further, that's when I'll celebrate. I'm not going to celebrate announcements because too often announcements lead to nothing. It's like every night on the news there's a fantastic, amazing medical discovery that every night on the commercial news, and the ABC do it too. Every night there's a medical story, and out of the 365 of them that they do each year, I think there's probably one or two that turns into something. The rest of it is just announcements of amazing breakthroughs that are not really that amazing. They're just part of a fundraising PR campaign to get the next grant, So
you could be right in the money there. But I think I do think although I celebrate that we've got to take these measures to save KNP, that it is sad to have to shoot these majestic animals.
Absolutely, but the other way to do it is the only other way to go in and do it is to spend basically half of the total state's conservation budget on getting people to go in, capture them, corral them, truck them to somewhere else, house them until they find a new home, and if they don't find a new home, what are you going to do? You're going to keep them on the public purse at an RSPCA facility for 20 years, or do we do something which is the most humane way of eradicating them? No one likes it, but it should have been tackled 40 years ago.
This is what happens when you make these ridiculous big mistakes, that you have to go out and poison tens of millions of foxes and cats.
That's right.
And shoot these horses and take all these lives and do terrible things because you won't do the proper management in the first place.
So I've got some I've got
We're
some
really diving deep on other things too.
I've got some sparrows and spotted doves and female blackbirds all doing some interesting byplay outside my window under the worm farm. There must be something something nice there, because the spotted dove has won the day. So there we go. It's getting the tucker.
I've got rainbow lorikeets in the grevillea outside my window.
Very nice. Which grevillea have you got outside your window?
Oh, it's my next door neighbours, but it's one of those big Robin Gordon grevilleas.
It's a big
miners and rosellas and lorikeets. Yeah.
Big red Robin Gordon. Yeah. One of the best.
I'm very lucky. I get both Quinson and Eastern rosellas right outside my window regularly.
You are lucky. Oh, actually, Ricki, we won't have a long discussion about this, but I did pull up.
No, because I was meant to go an hour ago.
That's right. That's right. We always find a way to talk birds. I'm interviewing in sometime soon Alex Lees, who is from Manchester University, about something he published a couple of years ago, but then he brought it up again with me when I started talking to him about BirdLife Australia is like the only sort of national bird organisation that does not support the feeding of birds in the home garden. And I've discussed it a number of times with different people on the show, but we are going to dive back into it with Alex and some other people around the world. And just to I'm now wrestling with it again. Having decided I wouldn't feed birds, I'm now thinking that maybe that I've seen mealworms are now available in my local Kmart. That I may start to feed birds, but with things that is not the standard seed and stuff. So, yeah. So I'm wondering about the ethics of it.
Well, you'll make great friends with your magpies if you scatter a few mealworms in front of them.
Yeah, and the noisy miners and the wattlebirds and everything. I mean, everything will have a crack at them.
They're all a little opportunistic. Are these dead or living ones?
No. They're dead ones. They're dried ones in. And I hadn't seen them on any of the retail shelves when I look around, and I just saw them last week in my local Kmart. So I thought, I'll give this a try. Maybe the birds will hate it. I don't know, but we'll give it a go.
Well, if you have a little blue tongue in your garden as well, you could flick one that way too. A little blue yellow one.
Yeah.
Well, I think that look, this is a great topic for the deep dive. I think too. At some time is feeding birds and.
Yes, well, I mean, there's so much crossover with the habitat gardening, with the deep dive, with Monday with Holly, and then we're talking to Daryl Jones in a couple of weeks on Monday with Holly. There's so much overlap, and I mean, more and more, I just want people to think about the decisions they make, and then to, be. Whatever they decide to do, make sure that they are aware of what it might mean. And I'm all for feeding birds if it means that it introduces a whole bunch of kids. I'm all for schools feeding birds if it means that you get 50 warriors for bird life to come out of a school each year. I'm all for that. Even if the noisy miners might be getting a bit of a leg up, because they're getting a leg up anyway, So, all right, Ricki. Well, we were finishing up an hour ago. Sorry if we went over the top too much, everyone, but it's been a really difficult couple of weeks, I think, and then those announcements about staffing and then delaying action just makes me so annoyed. I wish I had the influence of Burke's Backyard or Gardening Australia, because I would certainly be lobbying a lot harder than I'm able to sitting in my bedroom. doing a YouTube channel, Ricki. So,
Yeah. I've also decided I'm going to come up with a nice background for my bedroom, because my only background is, you can't even see it, is my binoculars and bird books that you can't even see there. So I think I should come up with a nice big birdie graphic background.
well, I'm investing in a shelf. So I have to. Well, I'm going to set it up with the cameras and the bird books and binoculars and my favorite horticulture and bird books and everything behind me. But I've got it. I've got a shelf, but it's a really crappy shelf and it looks really crappy. It's one of those cheap, crappy ones.
Shelf, you can't see it. On the other corner of my room with all my many bird books.
And on the wall where I currently have green material, which serves as my green screen behind me. But when I change and I orient so that I will be having the camera out that way and have the background here, my alternative camera angle will be bird pictures on this wall, which I will nicely arrange. And I'm also going to have a little neon, couple of neon LED strip lights, and one's going to say just save birds, and I haven't decided what the other ones are going to say, but I'll be able to push the button. One might just say bullshit or something like that. So because I want to make these streams more like a show so that they're a bit of fun, because like I think I've always said, I don't want to just preach to the choir. I want new people to find us and to have fun and learn stuff, and then go out and get involved or get active or whatever they want to do. But I want new people to find us, and a couple of talking heads. What have I got? I've probably got 100 and I think I've got about 120 conversations that are more than an hour long sitting on the YouTube channel, and it's just talking heads. It's not that interesting. So I'm also getting an intern so that someone, when we do these shows, will be doing sorry, I muted you. I meant to press this, so that someone will be doing this and this for us, so that the visuals are more interesting. So anyway, we're working towards that. I just need to invest in more stuff, but I don't make any money doing this, and when I'm doing this, I'm not doing something else. So I just have to do it in incremental steps. So that's life. All right. Well, when Ricki, just when do you think we are going roughly? I'm not asking you to tell me exactly now. We'll work it out, but just so people get an idea. Are we 2 weeks away, or are we a week away? Oh, are you working on the 7th of November, which is a Tuesday?
Which will be not next Tuesday, but the next.
That's correct.
Let me consult the zoo calendar. Not at this point.
Okay. Well, I am doing. It's a public holiday in Melbourne because we have that insane horse race. Yep. And last year I did a long stream where I replayed a whole bunch of stuff and just watched a few fun videos and stuff and I called it Nup to the Cup, and I'm doing it again this year.
Yeah, I say Nup to the Cup every year.
I've only decided to be more public and active about it. I've always been couldn't give a stuff about the cup, but now I want. I don't think the racing industry adds anything to anything. So I will
to tell me I have to go. I absolutely have to go at this point.
Okay, I'll send you a link so that you can join us whenever you feel like it, because I'll be streaming all day on that day. Thanks everyone who's So you and Richie's popping in. I'm inviting a whole lot of other people, and the idea is just that we'll have some fun and talk some issues, no direct topics. Ewan's going to talk about dingoes. So Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks, everyone. Ricky's been great again.
Thanks a lot. Happy birding, everyone, and see you
Yeah.
on November 7.
Cool.
Thanks. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.